This conference will now be recorded.
Hello there. I'm audible now.
Yes, Imran, you are.
Yes, Imran.
Yeah, excuse me about that. Actually, I'm doing recordings also, so I have like two mics. One is a recorder mic, so my default mic was disabled. Even I was waiting because I've been making told me to wait for some time. Fine. But then let's get started. First of all, welcome to the first day of the class. You have made a really good decision.
Imran can't hear you.
You can't hear me. You can't hear me. Just a moment. Okay. The microphone level just went down. No. Is it good now?
Yes, Imran.
Who is that just responded? Somebody said yes, Imran. This is Badri.
Yes, Badri.
Because, yeah, somebody responded saying that yes, Imran. So
Yeah.
that person can, it's actually making a resound. Maybe you're speaking on the speakerphone.
Who, me?
Not Imran. Somebody said yes, Imran. So I'm telling to that person. I don't know who that.
Come on, that is not such a big mistake, man. Relax. We'll
I'm not
handle it if
telling
there is
big
an
mistake.
echo.
Okay, that's an echo.
Okay. Your voice is also actually not that clear. Yours is also echoing.
Oh, okay. I'll make sure that.
It's it's
How is it
it's
now?
the microphone actually. Don't worry. Just keep yourself mute. When you have question, you can unmute yourself. Don't worry, the
Thank you.
mics that we use regularly from our headset is not that good. That I have learned in hard way when I was doing recording for the DevOps tutorials, and so I had to get a new condenser microphone. Anyways, that's the other story. So I was saying welcome. You have made really a good decision. You will not regret it. You'll really enjoy this course. You'll have much more on your plate than you could enjoy, and you can keep watching the videos again and again because it's already hosted. It will be hosted on Teachable, and we'll be adding more and more videos also over there apart from the course. There's so much in DevOps that cannot be covered. We cannot cover everything in the tutorial, but still trying to do everything, and it goes till 2 months. That's also too much time. Okay. Yes, the recording will be available. So you'll get a link and you can go to the link and you can watch the recording anytime you want. Okay, for a very, very long time, more than 6 months. So it's gonna be, there's nothing technical today. We'll just discuss what is DevOps, whatever questions you have, you can fire and, hopefully I'll answer all those questions. So before I begin, let me first meet everyone. So I want one thing to be clear in everyone's mind that we don't focus much on the definition of DevOps. There are plenty of tools that are in the DevOps uh, life cycle, There were different tools when I started doing it. Now the things are changing. Actually, the things in DevOps regularly change, so tools also change. But the tool that replaces the other tool will be similar to that. So once you have expertise in tool, let's say configuration management tool like Puppet, then unlearning Chef will be very easy for you, and Ansible will be much more easier. So the tools that are coming in are much more easier than the previous tool, not complex. Your main objective, keep your objective in your mind, that your objective is to deliver the software and its features quickly and efficiently. Keep that in your mind all the time. For this objective, we choose different tools, we choose different cloud platforms. Okay, but our objective is same. When I'm talking about software and its features delivery, that means any kind of code that is written by the developers, or even a tester's test automation script, or DB developers DB queries, anything at a code level has to be delivered to the server. Before it goes to the server, there are so many processes that happens, right? When in a core steel plant, when you put the raw steel or raw iron, there are so many processes that happens which makes it a stainless steel, then it comes out, or any kind of steel that comes out. Before that, there'll be so many processes. What we see in the production, the user gets the iron or the steel, but before the raw material, after the raw material is put into the furnace, there's so many processes that happens. So similarly, whenever a developer writes a code, it's a raw code. Before it comes to the users as a feature, there's so many process that happens on that. And you would be an expert in automating all that process. Okay, and that process takes a very long time. So you automate that process and you make sure, the delivery is quick. And if there is no human intervention, it will be also efficient. Okay, so we give constant delivery to the business. We are not some admin or some support team that will keep things up and running. We are the person who give constant delivery to the business. We churn the money, okay, faster, right? So keep this object in your mind. So there are so many things that happens. I'll come to this one later. But in the demo, I have discussed about DevOps lifecycle, and I told you this is the main area where you focus on. Okay, actually, this is the whole thing, right, as a whole. So there is, I can say that the DevOps lifecycle can be divided into two major parts. One is continuous integration, where you take the code from the developers, you build it, you test it, you version it, and then you put it into a software repository. Okay, that's one process. Once the software is ready, then delivering it to different servers and making changes in the server and infrastructure. That's a delivery part. Okay, where we talked about more about operations work, system admin work, cloud computing work. So you have to learn that work, and then you have to automate that process. So the first part is building the code. So let me discuss as a normal software delivery in a very brief. So when the developer writes a code, they're going to put it into some place, some centralized place, all the developers. You'll have a machine, which you can call it as build server, okay, or a computer. Okay, that computer is going to take that code and build it. Build is a process where you take the raw code and it's a compiled language like Java, .NET, and all. You compile it, test it, and archive it. Okay, when you compile it, it creates a lot of files, class files. The raw code cannot be executed on the system. It has to be compiled. Compilation will generate class files. Those class files have to be archived together. Okay, that archive.exe, .msi, .rpm, .deb, .var, .er, .jar. Okay, these are called as artifacts. In normal language, you can call them as just software. Okay, so it will build, and among that build, there's so many build that pass, that fail, some are not optimum. So among all that build, it tries to build multiple times and selects one build, which is the good one. Okay, which gives the better test results. And that build will be pushed to a staging server, staging environment. Okay, it will be also tested in developer environment. I'm talking about environment. I'll explain you what is environment in the next slides. Environment will be infrastructure, group of server. Okay, let's be talking about staging environment. So let's say there are one web server, one database server, and some storage and some load balancer like that. So this completes one environment before a software is delivered to a production environment where you're actually using it. Users are actually using it. Let's say Amazon, the e-commerce site, production server. Before you see any feature in that, before that feature was put there, it was put into staging, testing, development, so many different environment, and it is tested very well. Then it comes to production system. So again, let's reiterate. You build the code from the developer will test it in the local machine. Out of that, one build will be selected, and that build will be sent to staging environment. There could be multiple staging environment also, and it will be tested here from a user point of view, smoke test and different kinds of tests. And once it checks out fine that okay, this is good in performance, this is good in handling load and all of it, then only it will be going to the production system. So out of so many build, one will be selected. This process is in very brief, okay, but there are so many tools and technologies involved here. So this process can be manual, human being doing it, logging into different computers, generating builds, testing it manually and all those things, or it can be automated. So automation is our work. So this is a normal software delivery process. Now let's talk about environment. So when you get into any project, you may have such kind of diagrams given to you by the architects. This is a diagram, this is an architecture diagram of our project, and we have named it as vProfile. Okay, vProfile is a social networking platform written by our developer and specifically written for this course actually, so I can train you on DevOps. So this is the architecture of that project. It's written in Java. The vProfile code is written in Java. You'll get the code, you get the source code. You will take that source code, build it, choose anyone, and then deliver it to different environment. Okay, and whole thing you're gonna learn in this course. So this is a highly available architecture. You'll have multiple services working together, and for user, you will just see probably a website. That's all. When you go to facebook.com, you just see on your browser, you see a page, but to get that experience on your computer, there are so many services running in the Facebook infrastructure, Facebook data center, so many services working together to give you that experience. Okay, so such kind of architecture is of vProfile also. Here we have in the public network, in the public area, that means on the internet, user access by using different browsers or Android phones or iPhone, and they say www.vprofile.com, something like that. We have a URL. It goes to the load balancer. Okay, the load balancer is going to redirect it to any one of the web server. Okay, this is called as web tier. Okay, and there is a service called as Nginx. Nginx is a very popular front-end service. It acts as a load balancer also. So Nginx, any one of the Nginx will receive the request. Nginx web server will present you a first login page. So you'll enter your username and password. Then when you hit enter, it will go to the Tomcat server. Okay, Tomcat is an application server. Now it lands up in the app tier. Okay, here where your actual application lives. What we're talking about here, building and putting it to different environment. The main code goes into the application server, the developer's main code. Okay, that's where you see the entire application. So Tomcat will process all that request, and you have entered username and password, that kind of detail. Those information will be stored into the database. You see here MySQL database and MongoDB database. Okay, that's a DB tier. Okay, so all the dynamic data that is coming in the website, going out of the website, is going in and out from MySQL or MongoDB database, and that will not have a direct access from Tomcat. There will be so many backend services that makes the user experience better, which I'll explain. And you will see all this instance are actually twins, and then we have two Nginx, two Tomcat, and I'll explain you this concept. This is high availability, redundancy, and scalability. We'll learn that in load balancer tutorial. Okay, so this is the complete architecture. So when you want to set up vProfile architecture, vProfile web application, you need to set up all these services. Okay, all these services, RabbitMQ, Memcache, Elasticsearch. I'll explain you all this. We have a very good session to explain you all this and also implement it. Okay, so this is an environment. Now this entire environment can be deployed in one computer also, it can be distributed in multiple computers also. Okay, when we talk about production and also staging, we are going to deploy it in multiple computers, multiple VMs or multiple cloud instances. Okay, each running one single service. But when you talk about development environment, it could be everything in one or just one or two machines. All right, so delivering will be on these environments. Probably you're delivering SQL schema, you're delivering application code, you're delivering some changes in the front end page. Whatever change the developer or the DB guys, anyone writes, you have to deliver that into this environment. Okay, and in production there would be not only just two, there could be 20 Nginx or 20 Tomcat. Depends on the size of the application. Okay, this is the project infrastructure that we'll use, and we'll come back to this again. Okay, give me a moment. Now, software development lifecycle, we need to be aware about that. We are not system admins, or we are not just cloud engineers who handles the infrastructure. We handles end-to-end delivery. Okay, I'll give you one example, which generally really makes sense. It's an analogy. Think about, you have a great idea of packaged food. Okay, you have a great idea that I can create such kind of packaged food which will be which is very tasty and everyone will like it and will have a very good business. Okay, great idea. Okay, and you also tested that idea among with some of your friends and some of the users or customers, and they really liked it. Now you thought of setting up a big supply chain, your own production house that creates that packaged food. Let's say it's nachos chips, if I spelled it correctly. Okay, nachos chips. And you have taken a lot of money from the market and you've set up a huge production plant that creates that nachos chips packets. Okay, so everything is done there, and you have set up the best of the plant in the world. All right, the best technology, the best automation you did there in the plant. So it's creating that nachos chips packet. Now once the packet comes out of the factory, it has to be packaged into bigger packs, then has to be loaded into the trucks. The trucks has to go on the road and deliver it to the retail market, the malls and all. Okay, and in the process you have not only delivering it locally but nationally or probably internationally. So it has to go to trains and ships and has to be exported out of the country. Right, now in this entire process, okay, please mute yourself. So now in this entire process, you know that your chips of the taste is amazing. Okay, the first batch comes into the market and people are really liking it. All right, and the idea also came into the market that okay, this kind of chips are very very much liked by the people and everyone wants to have it. So the idea also comes into the market along with the chips. Right, now the first batch comes, people liked it, now people are waiting for another one. Okay, the stock is over now in the market. Now you are having problem in delivering that chips to the market because of so many reasons. Your logistics, your trucks drivers are not so good, your trucks are not so much efficient. Okay, the roads from your plant to the highway is very bad. Okay, your packaging of the product is not so good, because of that the chips are getting damaged. All right, because of all these problems, because of all this logistics problem, okay, the chips comes into the market late, and plus when it comes the chips are broken. All right, so user maybe trying another patch, but by the time some other companies already got that idea, but their logistics is the best, they manufacture the package the chips and sends it very quickly to the market with similar taste or probably better than you. All right, and chips are in good shape. So when someone comes to buy your chips and don't find it, and you find some another chips, they'll purchase that one. Right? You put the idea into the market, but someone else is making the money from that now. All right? Why? Well, your plant is the best in the world. All right? But your delivery process is very bad. Your logistics is very bad. So my point is, it's not about creating the product. It's also about delivering it. In today's world, if you don't deliver the product properly and on time, you lose the business. No matter how good restaurant you're running and how tasty your food is, if you're not able to deliver it to the people, today's food delivery world, right? At home delivery, if you're not able to deliver it, you will lose the business. Someone else will get the business. Okay, now that analogy strikes. Then the same applies in the IT industry. We have a great idea of a software that we want to launch into the market, but if our delivery is very bad, even if we deliver, the product doesn't run properly because there's so many changes, so many manual intervention. So people may go for another app. Okay, people are nowadays, switching between different apps and liking some other apps. Tomorrow they like some other app. Okay, so my point is, delivery is extremely important. So who helps in delivery, making the logistics better? DevOps. You automate the entire process. Think about you're handed over the chips logistic to someone else. You just give them chips and they'll make sure it gets delivered on time and in perfect shape. Right? So someone else is doing that headache. That someone else is you. So we are into logistics. Like not literally logistics, okay, but the IT logistics. So let's talk about a traditional software development life cycle. Like I explained you about the chips, let's talk about the software now. So whenever someone have an idea, they gather the requirement from that client or the customer, the business analyst and sales team. Okay, the requirement will be gathered, and then with all that requirement, it will be given to the developers to create it. So the developers are going to code for the software. Okay, create the product and test it locally in their own machine. Okay, then they're going to build the code, deploy it to some development server where it will be tested again. All right. Once the developer feels that they have developed the right code, then it will be deployed to the tester's machine. Okay, QA guys, where the QA or quality analysis or software testers are going to test that product left, right, and center. Okay, they're going to test for the load. They're going to test for the functionality and so many things. Once it checks out fine, then it will be given to the operations team to deploy to the production server and with proper documentation and all. Okay, and when it goes to production server, it has to be maintained. The server has to be maintained. The software has to be maintained. That's the responsibility of the operations team. Okay, so that's in brief. Okay, that's how the software development life cycle works, from gather requirement to delivering it to production system and then maintaining it, of course. Right. So far so good, but when you deploy code into production system thinking that it will work the way it was working in the development, okay, it doesn't work like that. Right? Yeah. So it fails. The deployment fails on the production system. Even we have tested in the tester's machine, the staging environment is tested, the development machine, it was tested, it was working all these places, but it's not working in production. And you complain it with the developers, but the developer says it works very well in our machine, but it's not working in your machine. That means the problem is with your machine, the production machine. Check that machine, not our code. Okay, who really knows? Production environment are mostly different than the pre-prod environment. Pre-prod environments are like staging, QA environment, developer environment. They are different. Okay, they don't have the same data as it's in the production. Okay, but this environment are not in sync. Plus the company will try to save some money and will keep the staging and QA environment very small, not multiple servers. But production will be multiple servers. Okay, database will be huge and all of that. There will be high level of security and high availability on production system that will be not there on staging environment and queue environment, or just to say pre-prod environment. Okay, because of that, the application doesn't behave the same as it was behaving in the queue environment. When you deploy, probably one service is not connecting the other service because of some network issues or firewall issues. Database may giving you different results because the data is different in the database. Okay, and these are some reasons because of that production deployment fails. So one solution can be, you can have similar environment, staging and production environment. All right. Plus, so many human beings who logging into the systems and making the changes. Sometimes they do it right, sometimes they do it wrong, because there's just going to be so many steps for the deployment. You will see when I take that session, there's so many steps to deploy that entire product. Some human error. Okay. So that one issue. Another one is, before you solve this issue, the another code comes in. So the new deployment tools and development tools and the new process, agile and all, are making development very fast, but the operations is very slow. It's not able to cope up. Operations team needs to follow some process, ITL process. They need to take approval and all, so they can't make changes into the production system quickly. Okay, so the code development is faster, but the deployment is slow, right? So they're not able to handle the load. Also, production server, as I told you, need a lot of tweaking, okay, on the database, network, security level. Then only things runs properly. All right. And one more big problem is, something goes wrong in the production system, then developers needs to be conveyed through mails. You need to send them logs and all. Developers don't have a direct access to the production system. And because of that, resolving that problem also takes a very long time. Okay, and there are reasons why they don't have access that I'll explain you later in security. Right, so you need some tool, technology, process that can solve all this problem, because if there's something that goes wrong into the production system, it's a business loss. Okay, now as I told you, before the code goes to the production system, before the software is deployed to the production system, there's so many things that happens, right? Before the chips comes to the supermarket, there are so many logistics and packaging and everything that will be done. Okay, in software development, pre-prod, whatever is happening, when the developer writes the code till it comes to the production, whatever process is there in the middle, building, testing, packaging, that process is called as release management. And you'll be surprised to know that 75% of the time spent by the operations team is in release management. You have to create servers for the developers, testers, right? Even for the customers, you have to maintain their database storage, and they'll be regularly sending you requests that make this changes, make that changes, because it's continuously changing environment, because they'll be continuously testing it. So 75% of the work of release of the time of operations team is spent on release management. That's 195 days of the year. Think about, you can automate that process. I'm not talking about production, before production. If you automate that entire process, the developer writes a code, clicks a button, and that entire process happens automatically. And the software is ready to be deployed on production now. And all you have to do, operations team, you have to take that and deploy it to the production. Production deployment will be also automating, but with approval will execute it. Okay, so you'd be saving a lot of time, also a lot of money. Okay, because you don't need that many people in the operations team, because if everything is automated. Okay, and whatever mistakes is done in the release management, okay, because of that 60, whatever failure that happens in the production system, it's because of the 60% of the mistakes that is done in the release management process. All right, so if you have a robust automated process where there is no manual intervention, all automatic, then it's going to give you the same result every time. Okay, so you're not only just saving the time, you're making sure so many mistakes, communication issues gets eradicated. All right, and of course there are a few more statistics that we'll talk about. Okay, just a moment. So I was telling you that nowadays operations team are not able to handle that much load. The developer keeps on giving new requirement, okay, new code changes. Operations team are not able to deliver all of them in that rate. Okay, so and this process was the same process was there for a long time, this traditional deployment. So what happened now? So let's discuss about it. The world has changed, the development has changed, but the operations team has not changed with that. Because of that, all these problems are coming. Okay, I've explained this in the demo also. It's there in my book also. You have to read the first chapter of the book, people, everyone. I hope you got the link, or if you did not get the link, you'll get the link today in the starter kit. Download the book, read the first chapter. You need to understand the process. Once you understand the process, then what a tool I will teach you, you will be able to correlate that this tool will be implemented at this place. This course is complete practical course where I'll try to put more and more process in your mind also. Okay, but you have to do some reading also. And so read the first chapter of the book, understand the process, understand the problem. How do we solve that problem? By using different tools. Okay. So I explained this in the demo also. We have no, so sorry, the developer have a traditional development life cycle, which is called as waterfall model. They follow this model and develop the code and deliver it to the respective team. So waterfall works like this in phases. First phase, you have requirement analysis. So first, all the requirement will be taken, okay, for the entire product. You know, you're developing, let's say, an e-commerce website, web application. So all the requirement will be taken from the customer or the client. Once you have taken all the requirement, then it goes to the design phase. Okay, then the architects will design everything, will design the software, database will design the database, you know, operations teams architect will design all the infrastructure. So all the design documents, everything will be created for the entire product. Once all the designs are ready, it will be passed down to the development. Now development have the complete roadmap of what they have to do, and they'll start coding. Okay, so they'll develop the entire product, probably in different modules, but the entire product will be developed. After the complete product is developed in few months time, then the product is passed down to the testing team. Testing team, QA, also we call them, they are going to take the product, and with the help of the operations team, they'll deploy it to servers, and then they will start testing it. Functionality test, load test, DB test, this test, that test, lot of tests. Once it passes all the tests, then it will be moved to the production where it will be maintained for a long time. Okay, any of the process testing fails, it comes back to the development team that we need to fix. This is the problem, fix this problem. So this is a waterfall model which is into phases, and we work on everything at once here. Okay, now this model is not so good, it has a lot of problems. Like once the requirement comes in and we're predicting it that it's going to take let's say 5 months of time to be delivering it. So let's say the requirement itself took 1 month time. The design took around 1 month time. Implementation, which is the development part, took 3 months of time. So 5 months are already over. So there is very less time for testing. But still, we do some testing. We extend the deadline, do some testing. Okay, not so detailed, but whatever test we are doing, it's failing very badly. And in the meantime, the developers are fixing it. So once you're testing the entire product, there will be a lot of issues and errors that will be coming out, and developer has to then resolve that, rework on their code, okay, on the entire code multiple times. Okay, this is a big problem when it comes to testing. Okay, because we're testing everything at once. Somehow, you know, in hurry burry, we deploy to the production system because the deadline is coming close, right? And then user starts complaining, this is not working, that is not working, this is slow, that is slow. Okay, so waterfall model has took a very long time. Because of that, these problems came in. The other problems in the waterfall model are, you know, it took, we predicted 5 months, but it took 7 months to deliver. You know, in 7 months there are so many things that will change in the IT industry or in the world. Okay, people comes up with a new idea nowadays. You have a lot of startups coming up, they bring new ideas to the market. People like that idea and switch to a different application. So you need to be injecting new ideas into your product. Okay, take example of food delivery apps. Nowadays, initially they were just food delivery. You just select the food, you order it, but now there are so many features that is coming it. You can track the delivery boy, where that person is on the map. Okay, it's taken left turn, right turn, you can see that delivery boy scooter literally on that map, right? So these are the new features that came into the product, and the product launched because those options were not available, right? So you need to put in new ideas into your product, then only your business will grow. Because of waterfall model, you're not able to put new ideas, okay? Because you work on the entire product once you take the requirement, so you're not changing anything. In short, waterfall model falls short today. Okay, it's not so much scalable in today's world. So back in 2009, this agile model came into the IT industry, or 2008, 2009, that time, and everybody were talking about it. This model talks about development into phases, development and testing into phases, not everything at once. Don't try to eat everything at once. You have a product. Any product will be list of features. You talk about any product. If you are explaining me any product, or if I'm explaining you any product, I'll be mostly talking about its feature. Like I was just explaining you food delivery app, right? Menu we have, that's one feature. Then you have a map where you can track your delivery boy, that's another feature. Then payment gateway is another feature, and there'll be a lot of features. Probably blogs they have, it's another feature. Images, that's another feature. So any product we talk, it's list of features. So in the requirement, we take all the list of features as much as we can, and then we break down that list into smaller parts. Let's say we have 50 features in a product. Let's break it down into 5 lists, 10 features in each list. Man, I'm fumbling today. So you have taken first the 10 features, right? Now developer are going to plan only for those 10 features, develop those 10 features, test it, give it to the testers to evaluate. Okay, then deploy to staging environment, learn from it whether it's good or not, and then move to the next phase, next iteration. So we are developing the product into iteration, not all at once, but into smaller parts. Okay, we break down the problem, right? Now there are so many benefits of this. By the time you complete all the features, your product will be already tested, because it is tested in every iteration. The biggest benefit that the world is seeing is once the once an iteration completes, let's say 10 feature completes, you can demonstrate it to the customer or the client or the boss who asked you to develop this, right? And you demonstrate, and the client or the boss sees it and may have feedback that what, now we can add this new feature and remove this old feature. I'm not liking the way you have developed it, can you change it into the next iteration? So now we have a place where you can inject new ideas while the development is happening, and that is amazing, people. Okay, ideas are everything. An idea can change your life, like that. Bad tagline. Anyways, idea is everything today, right? Think about it. Facebook. You think people were not that much capable of developing a web application? There were a lot of developers that time, but the idea, right, that become famous, right? So idea is very important. So that's the benefit. Plus, okay, plus one more thing, you don't need to complete all the iterations. Let's say you have now 5 iterations of 50 features, 10 feature each, right? So you can complete 3 iterations and you can go live into the production. You can take more feedback from the user, okay? And then you can develop more feature, inject new ideas, remove the old ideas, right? You don't need to wait for 7 months long. You can probably deliver it in 4 months also, right? And then you can keep on adding new feature, right? So that's agile model, amazing. But there's a big problem here with the operations. So I told you, operations team are not able to cope up because development has become so fast because of agile and also new development tools. development has more and more becoming assembling. They're assembling different libraries quickly. They will create the software, man. It was not that time. Development is very fast nowadays. And you get the operations team get the code and they need to deliver it. By the time they're delivering and solving that problem, the new code comes in. Okay. And I'm talking about now release management only. In production, also the changes are happening fast. So operations team is not able to cope up with this. All right. So the development team releases the product with the steps how to deploy it. The operations team will read that steps document and try to do the same thing. It doesn't work. Okay. There's no proper communication between development and operations. The development wants quick change, fast change, and the operations want stability, because if the product is not stable, okay, it's their responsibility. More than giving new feature to the user, it's the responsibility of the vendor or whoso is hosting it, the responsibility to keep it stable, up and running. Okay, a product, a website is giving you amazing features, but most of the time it is down. And you're trying to play, let's say again, it's food delivery app. You're trying to purchase, you're trying to order something, and you're trying to pay it. You're already very hungry, and it went down, or you got some error while you're doing the payment. Think about IRCTC, right? Tatkal booking. I don't know if you did that or not, because I used to do that a lot in my college time and all. I'm trying to do the payment, man. It just deducts money, but I don't get the ticket. It's so much frustrating. There we don't have any option, IRCTC, right? But the other places we have options, man. You can go to somewhere else. So stability is more important, I should say, than quick change, right? But if you don't do quick change, you can't. If you don't make new changes, add new ideas, then you'll go out of market very slowly, or maybe quickly. Think about Nokia, right? Went out of the market. It was not able to deliver it with Android and all, right? So stability was there in Nokia already, right? Everyone knows the Nokia phone, man. Really, you can hit someone with that phone. You throw it on a wall, doesn't happen anything. It was really robust and a stable phone, but it slowly went out of the market because it was not giving the latest features to the user, right? So both things are important. It's really difficult to balance all those things, right? So this is a problem. We're discussing more problems today, I know, because we are going to learn in this course how to solve them, right? So development is agile, all right, fast. The word agile means quick, fast, all right? And the operations is ITIL actually. ITIL is a process where it talks about stability, approvals, doing things very carefully, right? Like that. Very boring actually. I worked in that area. All right, simple change. You have to wait for a very long time. I worked in a places where one single change. It was just about making a one single line change into some 15 20 servers, then restarting a service. For that, it took 5 days. That entire change took 5 days. The actual process was very small, but approvals, documenting it, taking a peer review, doing peer review, manager approval, change management team approval, customer approval, this approval, that approval. People asking question, why is that? Why it can be done without like that? And really, it's very boring and frustrating work. Okay, I would like that work to be done by a machine. Seriously, all right. So these are two different um, poles apart, South Pole and North Pole, right? Combining them is going to be very difficult task. But there was a guy. Now short history, nothing too much. You know, there was a guy called as Patrick Du Bois. This guy worked in the development area also and in operations area also. And this guy understood the problem, right? Developers wants to deliver it. Now there is agile movement that kicked in. Everybody wants to develop the code quickly, but operations team is still waterfall, ITIL process and all. And there's so much of conflict between development and operation team. If we resolve this conflict, you will be able to deliver softwares quickly, right? So he presented this talk in an agile conference. That yes, you're talking about agile and all, it's making development fast, but you need to include the operations team, right? Then in someone heard them, not all of them, but Flickr is the first company who did DevOps. All right. So, and these guys presented this in a O'Reilly conference, right? And the title was 10 plus deployments per day. When you're talking about deploy here, that means production deployment. I was talking about one single change taking 5 days of time, and here they're talking about, and in at that time someone talks in front of me that we are doing 10 plus deployments per day. I'll be like, wow, how? Really? So that's the reaction of everyone. And they did it with dev and ops cooperation. So what Flickr did actually was, they had one team that is developing also and delivering also. So you have operations team, whatever people are required in development delivery, all sitting in same room, interacting, communicating. While the development is happening, same time the operations are doing their work. Okay, automated or not automated, but they were working cordially. They're coordinated, collaborated, working together. And with that, think about, you have a developer sitting right beside you, and when you are delivering it to the production system, something goes wrong in the code, this guy is there, he's going to take care of it, he or she, right? So that confidence level comes up, right? In 2009 all these talks were happening, but mostly in the development area. We're going to make development this fast, that fast, we're going to do this one, lean, agile, a lot of things, but operations was still left behind. Okay, but now the fire has already started, right? Of the DevOps, the Flickr and Patrick DevOps had ignited that fire, and now people are looking for such kind of work, and the international events are being organized for DevOps. Okay, international events, this actually shapes the IT industry, I'll tell you. Okay, someone has a new idea of some product of something, in the IT, some new technology, they present it into an international summit, an open source project, and there'll be people from big IT industry will be sitting in that conference and international events. It's really amazing with sitting with those people. I've attended few. It's just amazing experience. You get to see the people who developed Dockers and OpenStack and this and that. This is the place where they shape the IT industry. That if the idea is really amazing, it will be implemented by other people, or it's an open source project, people will contribute to it. So international DevOps days or the DevOps events started happening there, right? And then people started developing tools for that, like Vagrant, or started adopting already existing automation tool like Puppet and all. Okay, so you can see in 2011, by 2011, people actually started developing tools for DevOps, right? Before that, it was just talks and we were just using, the existing tools. But now specifically for DevOps, the tools started coming in, okay? Right, so so much so we discussed a lot of problem, and the problem can be solved by one, automating each and everything. When I was working in Cisco, there was this in 2012, that time, where we were forced to automate each and everything. Okay, and they were not talking about collaborating all this automation tool together. Whatever work you're doing, maybe you're doing a very simple work, it's not related to anybody, still automated. So everybody had to automate whatever work, and there was a review also. There was a they were giving us training budgets also. You want to get trained on anything, you want to do this, that, but we have to automate each and everything. Initially I couldn't understand, yes, fine, I'll automate, no big deal. I was like a Python guy and all, Puppet also we're doing, so no problem, I'll automate. But later all these things slowly came in together. All the automation tools came together. We were working with different team. We were working with the architects, developers, testers, monitoring team together. We are combining all this automation, linking everything together, and there was a beautiful life cycle then. Any code change, it was delivered automatically. Everything was automated. Okay, so everyone contributed to that. Testers contributed, architects contributed, operations contributed, monitoring team contributed, everything was automated, and that was amazing. So you work together. Okay, so DevOps was not a tool. It's not just a tool. It's, you know, it's a philosophy. You know, as I was giving you an example, it's a culture change. You're changing the culture there. We're working as a normal separate team, separate silos, but now the culture is changing. You're working together. Okay, to deliver the features quickly at a very high rate. So high rate you really get surprised. In today's world, companies like Amazon, Google, they are deploying hundreds of changes per day. Hundreds. Some people don't see in their UI website, okay, but there are changes, hundreds of changes in production. When I compare this with the time when I joined the IT industry, I was really get surprised. Jaw-dropping news, actually. So DevOps is a philosophy. You work together to deliver it in a higher rate. Uh, it's a way to bridge a gap between developers and operations. When you work together, your conflict slowly go away. Okay, we focus on removing human intervention. Keep that in mind. We don't want people, using their keyboards and mouse in the DevOps lifecycle. Seriously, if there is something that is manual, oh, it is done now, let me click on this button and then let me run this script. That's not DevOps. You have to remove that while you are running that script. Yes, it is automated, you don't need to run it. You'll have another tool that will trigger that script automatically. Okay, so throughout the life cycle, throughout continuous integration, continuous delivery, everything has to be automated. Then we can combine them together. Okay, and the course will be like that. Okay, first we'll learn the manual process, then we'll learn automating this part, build part, then continuous integration part, then operating system automation, then cloud automation, then we'll combine all these things together at the end. Okay, right. So everything starts at collaboration, as I told you. Okay, you communicate, you work together, like Flickr did, like Google is doing, like Amazon is doing. Okay, so same way you implement it. Without communication and collaboration, you cannot implement DevOps. I promise you that. I work with companies, they try to do like that. It does not work. They say, you automate, you automate, you automate, but we have no information about how to automate that process, what to automate actually, not how, what. Okay, right. So DevOps lifecycle, coming back again on this one. So this is the process that you have to automate, and I explained this in the demo. Keep this in the mind and read the first chapter. Again, I'm telling you, decoding DevOps, read the first chapter. You will get a clear-cut information after listening to me, and then reading that chapter. You'll have the information that what you are supposed to do when you get hired. People are like, hey, they hired me as DevOps. Really, I don't know what to do now. There are people who come to me like that. They're like, this, Yeah, I know that one, but I don't know this one. Okay, fine, learn this one, that one, and then understand the DevOps, what it is, what they want you to do. They'll give you several requirements, but their main goal is going to be DevOps lifecycle. Okay. So I was like, I'll tell you one thing, small story. I was freelancing for someone, and these people were giving me weird requirements. I had to do that because I was getting money for that. It was DevOps work only. What they were thinking, it is DevOps. They're thinking only about automation. I used to resist so many things. Okay, you don't need to do this. Instead of that, you do this, that, and they're not listening. They're like, no. We don't want it like this. We want it like that only. And there'll be biggest problem in DevOps will be from people, not with the tool. Tool will not fight back with you. Okay, really, you'll have nice, amazing documentation. If you have your basics strong, you can read the documentation and do plenty of it. Okay, this tool is not going to fight back. People really fight back. Okay, so they're not allowing me to do this, that, and like, fine, I'm getting money for this, I'll do it. What can I do? And then someone from Google came in over there. There was some Google project going on. So someone came in there and they presented that you should do it like this. This is how we do it at Google and blah blah blah. And then the next day in the meeting, this guy who was in charge of the product was saying, Imran, you know what? We need to do something like that. And I was like, really? That's what I've been telling you for such a long time. And then I drew on the board everything and explained them, see, this is what I was talking about. And they said, yeah, yeah, this is the exactly same thing they were saying. Yeah, but it was coming from then Google, right? So they heard it, right? So people will always resist for several reasons, various reasons. Some people think that you'll come there, you'll take their jobs. Some people, some people will don't want to contribute. They don't want to do anything extra apart from the money that they are getting. They're happy. They come 9, they go 5. They're happy with their time and all. They don't want to put any extra effort. Several reasons will be there. People will resist it. Okay, but this will be the intention. All right, DevOps life cycle. There can be different tools also. Okay, so I explain this in the demo also. All right, so you go ahead, read the first chapter, understand it. I'm going to start tomorrow from here itself, and then explain you few more concepts, and we'll talk about setting up our own local system for this DevOps course. Okay, some prerequisite that you need to do on your local system. So I'm going to start showing you how to set up virtual machines and explain you what all we need to do in this week or in the next week. Okay, you can ask me questions now because I've been talking from a long time. What's the time now? Oh. Yeah. WhatsApp. What WhatsApp? Hey, you can ask me questions now. Okay. Come on.
Yeah, hi Imran.
Hey.
Myself Anvesh.
Yes, go ahead.
Do you hear my voice?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, actually I'm working as a means middleware administrator, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
working into QA environment. So what happens
Okay.
here? The testing is happens in the form of manual testing
Mm-hmm.
happens.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are talking about the continuous testing, so
Right.
how it would be the continuous testing?
See, first thing is that there cannot be anything manual in the DevOps lifecycle. Okay, nothing manual. Here you see run, load, and functional test. This will be an automated test scripts that you will execute from your tools. Okay,
Okay.
so this testing scripts will be already written by the automation tester. Being DevOps, you don't write it. But if this is manual, this stops the life cycle. And I've been struggling with this with so many clients actually. Because of me, so many manual testers were replaced from the project, and so many automation testers were brought. You need to have testing automated for sure. So it's a management
So
decision. You have to present the idea.
so if we are using the DevOps, how the builder code received to the tester? Like now, how we are receiving like there is some releases. Okay, so in
Right.
the first release we receive the code, then we will deploy,
Mhm.
then the
Right.
test will happens.
Right.
When the test is going is happening, maybe defects may be raised, right?
Right. Detect.
Uh,
Yeah.
Again another code will come, and again we will test
No, no, no.
something
See,
like.
once anything fails in the entire life cycle, the life cycle stops, and everyone have to work on fixing that. Once that is fixed, then you move to the next one.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, yes.
that is for sure. The benefit that you get here is it's all automated, so it's going to be taking minutes of time, to do all those things, or probably an hour or so, and get the result. If it's failing, you fix it right then and there. Right?
Yeah.
Involve the developers, testers, DB guys, whosoever is responsible. You involve everyone, war room, fix it, move to the next release. It will be like
Yeah.
that, but no
So
manual.
here my doubt is like there are a few products. Okay,
Mhm, mhm,
the first code has received to my environment, so I have
mhm,
deployed it. So
mhm.
another code also received.
No, it
So
cannot be like that. You have to first test the first one, or you need to
okay,
have two different like if you're doing like are you talking about doing A/B testing, like some features tested in another environment, some features tested in another environment?
No, what I'm asking that if we are using, if I am using the DevOps, okay, so how it would be means some one code is having some features, right? So first we need to test that.
Yes, of course.
Until unless we don't test the first code, second code won't be received, right?
See, you can also have multiple DevOps life cycle. Okay,
Okay.
like for the release management, production there will be only one deployment. Okay, everything is going into one production environment, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but if you want to simultaneously test two different features, then you can have two different life cycle.
Okay.
That also you can do, but that will create more chaos. All right, see, once you have everything automated, you don't need to be in such a hurry burry to deliver new features. Okay, it will be anyways tested very quickly, and if there is a problem you fix it, and then the other one can go on. All right, you can have multiple life cycle also. I have implemented some process somewhere, where testing pipeline is totally different and delivery pipeline is totally different. So testing pipeline runs continuously, test the product, and then we take that and deliver it to different environments. So there are so many, different kinds of process. We'll learn all of that. I'll explain you that, when we learn Jenkins, Ansible, AWS, everything, we'll have a life cycle there. And then I'll explain you, you can divide it into two different or one single. I'll explain you all those.
So here is there any dependency on the code or build?
No,
Means
no,
the
forget
first
about
code is
dependent.
dependent on the second.
If there is a dependency, then it has to be run one at a time. Okay.
Okay, okay. Yeah,
If there is a dependency, one at a time.
thank you.
No problem. Okay,
I am
don't think
Ran,
too
I'm
much about
Raju
it
here.
for now. We will learn all this process. Yes, Raj.
So, no, hi Imran. I have one question. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, Nginx, I'm talking about the architecture. Nginx is the only service which runs, or is there any some different services which runs on?
No, this is a service which is in our product, in my
Okay,
product,
so your
deployed.
part. Okay. So,
There could be any other
the-
service, man. There could be Apache, there could be HA proxy, there could be anything, any other web server, Windows IIS web server. Okay, any kind of web server. This is the services that we choose in our product.
oh, okay. Okay.
Uh,
So actually,
Hi
I'm
Imran, I'm
from
Raju here.
SAP background.
One at a time.
Okay, I'm
Yes,
from
Raju.
SAP background, so I'm like an administrator for SAP.
You are from SAP background. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Some other guy wants to talk. No problem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hi Imran, I'm Raju here.
Yeah, Raju.
Maybe I missed the first session of the demo, so just
Uh-huh.
wanted to know what is that covering in this course and how we can depict that into our working environment.
That's a very short question with a very, very long answer. So you need to watch the demo video, man. Okay.
Okay,
There are
yeah,
so many things that I can't just explain it in like few minutes. Okay. For that itself was the demo. Okay. What all we are going to cover. This new course content we have. If you have the older course content, forget about that. You can, the latest course content that was sent, read that one. That has the updated it with few more things.
okay, thanks.
Okay, you read that, go it, and you have a question, you ask me.
Yeah, sure, thanks.
All right? Yes, that's all. Come on, there are like so many people. So either everything is clear or nothing is clear. Whatever it is, you have to tell me. Okay. So if you have understood today's session, just put it in the chat. Yes. If you're not understood, just put it in the chat. No. Based on all that feedback, I'll in tomorrow's I will may try to make you understand. First 2 weeks I'll try to go very slow. Okay, in the technical and all. But your feedback is very important, so I can understand. I'm not able to look at your face. When I used to take classroom, I used to look at the face and understand they're understanding or not. So you have to tell me. So if you understood, just put it in the chat, yes. If no, say no or partially. Okay, I guess that's positive. All right. All right. Awesome, people. Still read the first chapter of the book. That's your exercise today. Okay, every day you'll have some exercise. Okay, today is theoretical exercise. Read the first chapter of the book. Tomorrow I'll explain you DevOps skill sets. What the skill set that you need to have, and how to set up your system for this course. Okay, prerequisite. Right. So that would be all for today. I will see you then tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye. Have a good day and night. You will get the real-time environment, all of that, man. This course is about that only. Okay, don't worry about that. This was brief. This was brief. Okay, this was not in detail. You'll have it in detail. You are gonna deploy yourself everything. Okay, don't worry. I have documentation, everything for that. All right, bye bye.